What is up, everybody? It's your girl, Brim. Welcome back to the Bag Collection Podcast. It has been a pretty long hiatus. Why? Well, filmed a movie, number one. My baby never returned. You can find it on IMDb. And guess what? The trailer has dropped on my channel. So if you haven't watched already, go check it out. Leave a comment, share it. We are in the thick of editing right now and post production. We have some reshoots that we need to do. um, we had to reschedule because some of us got sick. But we will be getting those reshoots done here within the next month. Um, and we are working very hard to get the movie done by fall. But we are going to be taking our time, making sure we don't miss anything, getting the color grading, the music, everything as precise as humanly possible. This movie means a lot to me and it is my baby. So I want to make sure I am taking the proper time and making it the best, not just for myself, but for my cast and my crew and the horror fans when it comes out. So we are talking to distribution, but we're taking our time and doing what we need to do at the end of the day to bring a horror slasher comedy drama, all the craziness into the world. So stay tuned for all that. Like I said, check out the trailer. I'm very happy with it and I hope you guys are too. I've had all positive feedback, honestly, and I'm just so overwhelmed and grateful for it. So enjoy it, and there will be another trailer later down the line. So stay tuned for that as well. But today, I want to talk about the amazing Resident Evil Requiem. Requiem. Good grief. So I got the Steelbook, bibs. And as you can tell, the amazing voice actor, Nick Apostolitis, who voices Leon Kennedy, our boy, we love Leon. And the quote that I got was, "This time, you ain't getting back up." He has such beautiful handwriting. Such beautiful handwriting. Get out of here, sir. Sir. Um, First of all, before we dive into the game, let's just talk about Leon because we all love Leon. Once a Leon girl, always a Leon girl. Sorry, Chris. Sorry, Carlos. Sorry, Luis. You guys have to move aside. Leon is the man. Okay. 49 years old and bro is in his prime. Okay. We all thought Leon was like badass by the time 4 came around. No. Well, yes. But then we get Requiem. Guys, to the women, because reports have said women who work at Capcom were the ones who were given the whatchamacallit job to create Leon's look. And man, I could hug all of them. Whoever had a hand in designing Leon's character for Resident Evil Requiem, I want to hug you because you nailed it. He looks great. You can tell that he's lived through a lot. There's so much trauma there. I mean, even within his posture, like he's more hunched throughout the majority of the game. You can tell he's carrying a lot, like the franchise on his back. Sorry. I digress. So let's get into Requiem itself. So the main protagonist is Grace Ashcroft, the daughter of Alyssa Ashcroft from the Outbreak Files. I thought it was interesting that they were not only bringing a new character into this franchise with how many games we've had, especially in mainline, but also they brought a character back. And then, of course, like Leon. And I mean, they introduced the new villain, Victor Gideon, and all that such. But like to have it be the protagonist, one of the protagonists, to be a brand new character, I think, as Resident Evil fans, we're always kind of skeptical of that. I mean, like we're skeptical of that, like even in the film world, when it comes to shows or movies, that have sequels and or franchises and yada 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 yada. But I have to say, Grace gets to like, I mean, I feel like a lot of people love her, but some of the comments I see, um, she's getting some slack. And I'm sitting here like, hold on a minute, guys. She is a normal girl, an FBI agent, an analyst. Okay. Homegirl don't go out in the field that often. I feel it in my bones. I felt that the moment that her boss pulled her into that office and said, you need to go back to Renwood and look into this because this is the fifth body that we found. And there's this new virus going around. Leon's infected. All of a sudden, all these bodies are dropping, and there's black veins, and it's just nastiness, right? So Grace goes in to her boss's office and she starts talking about how she's finishing her report. She just needs a couple extra days, 2 tops, give or take. Boss interrupts her, says, look, found another body. You got to go look and investigate. You can see in her face that she doesn't want to go. Why? Because her mother died there, Miss Alyssa Ashcroft. And then she goes and we get a flashback of what happened to Alyssa. Listen. If, by the way, let's shout the voice actress and mocap gal for Grace out, Angela Santalbano. What an absolute icon. Okay. I'm telling you right now, when the Game Awards come around, Requiem should have so many awards. It's not like, I'm not even just saying that as a fan of Resident Evil in general. The acting in this was so good. I was rocked so many times where I was like, oh my gosh. And the particular part for her was when we had that flashback 8 years ago. And they were in Renwood Hotel. They've been moving consistently. Grace doesn't have a lot of friends. She's shy. She keeps to herself. And if you looked at the computer when she was typing away when Alyssa came in, she was typing up some stuff and doing research on the Bakers, which was also very interesting. So they're also like linking a lot of stuff together, which is nice, and not avoiding the past of other games. And love that. And so then the phone rings and somebody asks for Miss Ashcroft. And then she's like, yeah. And then the line goes dead. And Grace, you know, she's younger. She's not even thinking about it, but her mom knows that she's being followed and things are happening, especially within the work that she's done and the people that she's spoken to, which we'll get more into. And that's where she's like, we got to go. And then the power goes out. Girl, I'm running. I ain't wasting no time. Girl, we got to go. So they go to leave. They leave their stuff behind, basically. The hotel manager comes out. He's apologizing for the lights going out and then bites the dust. Alyssa shoots the hooded man and then they keep moving. Then they get to this one room. Grace calls 911. She's frantic because she has no idea what's going on. Alyssa hasn't opened up to her about who Grace really is and who she's been attached to. And so she's calling 911 frantic about a murder, multiple murders. And then, you know, Alyssa says, like, you know, I love you and you're my hope and you're like the best thing that's ever happened to me. And I just love you. And they have this really sincere, beautiful mother-daughter moment. And then they go to head out again. And then the hooded man pops out and takes Alyssa out. And the acting from Angela Santalbano in this moment where she's screaming over her mother's now dead body. Oh, that the screaming that came out of her like I have chills right now talking about it. I can still picture that scene. It was so good. So, Game Awards, I'm telling you right now, not only does Angela deserve an award, so does Nick Apostolides as Leon. And then Requiem, it needs to be winning Game of the Year. Game of the Year. One of the best games for a very long time, not just in the Resident Evil franchise, but as a whole, with a story that just hits in so many ways emotionally, and just everything about it. It deserves its flowers. So actually finds a picture, well, multiple pictures of her, like somebody's been watching her. There's pictures of her mother on the bed in the same room that they were in 8 years ago at that hotel, 204. And this hotel, it caught on fire. So, like, not only just her going back is traumatic, but like seeing the aftermath, you could just see it in her face. Like, she didn't want to do it, but she knew she had to because of her job. And just, I think she also really wanted to find more answers. And eventually she does. Again, we'll get into all that about her mother, and just what happened that day. And she's been ultimately avoiding it for 8 years until her boss was like, girl, you gotta go. And it's funny because online, a lot of people are like, you know who the real villain is? Her boss. And why are you sending her by herself? Why is she going back there by herself? Why aren't you sending any other agents with her? Like, why is she going alone? Does that actually happen? Because if so, that's not right. I don't think that's realistic. But again, you got to dispense this belief when it comes to cinema or video games, yada, 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 at the same time. Whatever. So she leaves the hotel room, goes downstairs, runs into a cop that she had run into a few minutes prior to entering Renwood Hotel, and he is now infected. Homeboy starts, he, turns, okay? Can still use a gun? Get out of here. No. Get him with a poker. Bye. And then he's still moving. I thought if you, got him in the brain, they were done. Crazy work. No. They keep going. Again. She runs upstairs and, she opens a door, goes through, she gets bit. Girl, what? He goes out a window. He's done now because he got stabbed in the neck and then fell like 5 stories or whatever you want to call it. Then she hears a piano like music playing. She's like, hello? What's happening? Goes upstairs and we meet the villain of the game, Victor Gideon. Homeboy is weird as hell. Creepy. Voice actor for Victor Gideon. Woof. Sir, you're terrifying. But you delivered. So that's all we can ask for. And so she comes in, gun raised. Who are you? What is happening? Right? So he gets up, starts talking about how she's special and blah, 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 blah. She goes to leave. Dude, the height difference, his hand was as big as her damn head. Okay? Wild work. He knocks her out. And then we go to the Rhodes Hill Center. And first of all, she's hanging upside down on a table. Now she's covered in bandages from where she was bit, and then also like along her chest. So she wakes up, her blood's getting drawn, and we also find a book in this room after she gets out um, where she's already like being tested, like her blood's being tested, all these things. And we're like, what is happening? Um, Now we're trying to get out of this space. We need a fuse. Got to find the screwdriver in the nurse station in the pitch black. So we get a lighter. Thanks so much. Just a lighter. And then we find a couple glass bottles. What are those gonna do? That's not gonna get me out of here. Okay. And also, why was the screwdriver moved to the nurse's station? Like, why isn't it just left where, like, so extra, right? But that's just when you know the Resident Evil lore, there's these puzzles, and then you have to get these medallions, and they're like on the third floor, and the second floor, and in the basement, and in the garage, and in the bleh. And you're like, okay, bro. Okay. So we go back towards the nurse's station. We open the door. Zombie comes out. Well, not a zombie. He's just dead, but infected. All of a sudden, we see this big ass hand. Bigger than Victor Gideon. Long ass fingers with nails for days. Latch that dead body. Lift it up. And then we see this nasty looking thing called the girl. Just take a nice bite of his head. You would think that's a chicken nugget. Not the day. For the girl, it's a dead body. And she's chomping on that head. Then she gets up in your face with that nasty ass teeth that she hasn't brushed. And then roars at you. And then you have to run. When I first played this game, okay, I was like, today's the day. Okay. Running. Go, girl. There ain't no time for tripping. There ain't no time for commentary. But she made some commentary. And then we get back to the room that we were tied up on the table. The lights are still on. The girl tries to come through and she gets burned, which indicates that she does not like the light. There is another room that has a little book. Talks about the shadow monster. Again, which is the girl. Stay in the light. Just stay in the light. Okay. Which means I'm just going to stay in that room. Because why would I leave it? But you have to. You have to get the fuse and get out of there. Now, to backtrack a smidge, reintroduced to now a 49-year-old Leon Kennedy, again, in his prime. He is investigating these bodies as well. He's in Elbridge, I want to say it's called. If I'm incorrect, go ahead and tell me in the comments, but I'm pretty positive it's Elbridge. And we also get reintroduced to a now 40-year-old Sherry who's working alongside Leon because they are also infected with the T virus, which is crazy because you're thinking like, okay, why did it take so long for this to generate in their bodies, and how did they get infected with the T virus all these years later, which they were indicating as Raccoon City syndrome. 5 other survivors of Raccoon City have died from this virus. And we've all been questioning who has died from it. So we have Claire, Jill, Carlos, other people. So we're all sitting here like, oh, okay, well, these other characters weren't mentioned in Requiem at all. Only Chris was. So he gets in his $200,000+ Porsche. And she's like, you there? He's like, yeah. And then, the emphasis on like, we're running out of time. Like, we need to figure this out and we need to find the cure or we are going to die. We also do find out that Sherry, again, is also infected along with Leon. So who's still alive? Like I said, we have Claire, we have Jill, we have Carlos, we have all these people that are survivors of Raccoon City. Who has died, we still don't know. We don't know the other 5 that died that were the survivors of Raccoon City. And so what shocked me, though, at the end of the day is, we go back to Resident Evil 2. Claire saved and protected Sherry as much as Leon did by the end. And well, by the end, mostly for Leon. But Claire carried for Sherry in 2, and there was no mention of her, which really disappointed me because personally, I really love Claire Redfield. I love her character, and she's one of my favorite Resident Evil gals. And so for her not to be mentioned, I thought was very shocking. And then it also makes you question, like, the lore, which I've read some stuff to where Claire abandoned her and Leon like took care of her over the years, basically. And I'm just sitting here like, wait, what? So like I'm intrigued to hear what Capcom has to say about that, because another thing too, Leon had a wedding ring, guys. A wedding ring. Now, there has been so much talk and controversy on who is Leon's wife. Got a lot of options happening here. Got Claire, Ada, Helena, Honnigan. And then you have some weirdos online talking about Sherry. If Capcom decides it to be Sherry, I will not be okay with that. Why? Because Homeboy met her when she was 12 and he was 21. That's weird. So no, I will not accept that answer. In my whole humble-hearted opinion, as much as I stan Claire and Leon at the end of the day, I honestly do think that it's Claire Redfield. It's the only one that makes logical sense, because when we look at Ada's character, she's a badass. Do not get me wrong. She has the confidence. She's very sneaky. She knows what she's doing. But she is so manipulative, and she has used Leon over and over and over. Do they have chemistry? Absolutely. We saw that in 2. We saw that in 4. There's that tension there between them. But in my opinion, it would not make sense. I don't see Ada being somebody that would marry Leon. I think it's just something that, I mean, in 6, when we look at Resident Evil 6, Helena does ask Leon, like, you're in love with her, aren't you? And he doesn't even answer. And it makes you think, like, But then when we look at, the animated Resident Evil films like Infinite Darkness, and we see these moments between Claire and Leon, and even by the end, like, she was like, do you want to go to dinner? And he declined. And it's like, you see something between them even too. There are endless possibilities of who Leon's wife is. It could be a completely different random person that we don't know as well. But we have DLCs coming out, and apparently from sources, we're supposed to find out who Leon's wife is in the DLCs. We keep hearing that Ada's going to pop back in the DLCs too. So I'm excited for these DLCs. I'm ready for these DLCs. I hope you guys are too. But ultimately, I really do think that it's Claire. It's the one that makes logical sense to me. Like, we look back again at 2, and like, they're young, and we just see how they're interacting, and it's like awkward, but it's so cute. And I don't know, maybe I'm thinking too much into it. But I don't know. The obvious answer for everybody is Ada, but I really think that it's Claire. I think that makes the most logical sense. And I know that Chris and Leon have built a friendship, especially from 6, and everything. And I'm sure Claire has talked about Leon to Chris over time. I just think it makes the most logical sense. I mean, brother-in-law comes to save the day. Come on. Come on. So, with that being said, then back into the game and where we're at. Leon then eventually makes his way to Rhodes Hill after seeing Grace being taken by Victor Gideon. And we have this whole little section of him downtown taking out the zombies and saving civilians. He gets to Rhodes Hill. The girl has eventually grabbed Grace after she gets the fuse. Leon comes in, a doctor escorts him to go talk to Victor Gideon, and then they call code 6 and that they have to evacuate because the hysteria has gone around, which means the doctors and any patients that are living have now become infected. Got a zombie that comes in with a chainsaw, takes out the doctor. Homeboy just stands there with his gun up like, okay, I guess it's time to go. And zombie swings it a few times and we get our first crack at a good Leon one-liner, which is, I think I need a second opinion. That was one of the quotes I wanted to put on my amazing steelbook. Okay, also the Requiem gun, need it, want it. The steelbook, gorgeous. And let me open it real quick too. The deluxe version is just stunning. I also got a little card of Miss Grace Ashcroft, our queen. They only gave out 47,500 of these, and I got number 44,195. So I'm honored to have another little piece of Requiem. I got a Requiem bag. My buddy got it for me because the GameStop that's local for me was only going to have like 3 bags for pre-orders, it was like a weird thing. So it was just sent to my house via mail. And yeah, my buddy was able to get me a Requiem bag, and I am so endlessly grateful because he knows how much I just love Resident Evil. So I was like very much my heart when he said he got a bag for me. So I'm so excited about that and getting it very soon because he is not in the same state as me. My DP, director of photography for Never Return, Chris Hackett, much love. Shout out to you. So he fights off these zombies, gets through, chainsaw breaks. Of course, the moment Leon gets his chainsaw moment, the chainsaw breaks. Come on. But he runs then into the care center and sees Grace is getting grabbed by the girl. He takes out the girl, and then, we have the moment of, okay, we need to get out of here. Then all of a sudden, doors shut. Everything starts shutting. He's trying to talk to Grace, understand what's going on, why she was grabbed. She has no idea. Again, she is just a normal girl. She's never been involved in this stuff. She doesn't know anything. Alyssa didn't tell her anything. So it's very nerve-wracking and traumatic and scary for her. Leon, this is another day. Just another plain old day in the biz for him. So they get separated. Victor gets Leon pretty much just like he got Grace, knocks him out. And then we are zoned in on Grace for a minute. Grace, again, I think is such a powerful character for people like me, the general public per se. Because again, she is a normal girl. She has never been involved in things of this matter and like fully immersed in it. And again, another day in the park for Leon. This is nothing abnormal. He's been dealing with bioweapons since Resident Evil 2. And so she's just trying to figure out what to do to get out of here. So she goes into this little medical area, like it's one of the save rooms for us. Then she goes into another door and she sees this little girl basically in a cage, a glass cage. There's someone dead on the floor, one of the doctors at the facility, but then there's another room with another bed and there's nobody in there. And this poor girl, her name is Emily. She is blind. She looks just like Grace. Just a little version. That's interesting, isn't it? So then we keep speculating, is Grace normal or not? We find out eventually, which again we'll get to. And she tries to save this little girl. So she's going through, she's getting all the key cards. She's getting these little crystal like medallion thingies to get into this door. You got the moon, you got the sun, and you got the star. We do our thing. We're running around, taking out bioweapons, like the chef. You got these other doctors with these big blades, like a saw-like looking blade. Get out of my face. Okay? Then you also have this one patient who's holding one of those IV poles. Everybody at this point has been saying he's the strongest one because he can take out Chunk. Chunk's a big boy. He eats interesting items like IV poles and machines. Huh? Sounds great. Enjoy that. I don't think it's going to be good going down. And that's why your big beluga booty can't fit in the hallways. You got to squeeze through them suckers. Maybe you shouldn't be eating all that stuff. You're trying to find the wristbands because not each room, some of the rooms have different levels that you have to have wristbands for. There's level 1, level 2, and then level 3 is to get Emily. So we're going through, we're trying to get these crystal medallions and then save Emily and get out of the care center. So we get to then the third medallion or crystal, whatever you want to call it. And ultimately crystal. And you can't read the buttons, but Emily, you catch her first with a book in her room. You're like, okay, she's blind. How's she reading? So the way that her book is set up is to where she can feel the letters and still read, even though she can't see. So eventually, once you get the level 3 and get her out, you ask for her help and you carry her to that room. Then, of course, you have to take out some zombies. While she's handling that, she gets the crystal. Then we have another girl pop through. And she takes Emily into the dark, into the abyss. Really? Then Grace is like, I can't let her just go like that. I have to save her. Because why would you leave her? We can't leave homegirl behind. She just helped us too. So she jumps down, and then we're back at Leon. Ooh. Hi, Leon. How are you? So again, he was knocked out, and now he's tied to a chair, and he's with Victor. He wakes up, gives that smolder. Leon's got it. We all know that Leon's just got it. Then we get, some more one-liners. My favorite one in this scene. Victor comes around. He's talking to him. And then he's like, you know what? I do have a question. When's the last time you brushed your teeth? Ooh, I know that hurted. But also, if you looked at Victor's teeth, when was the last time you brushed your teeth? Brush that stanky breath, you nasty. Tell him, Leon. When's the last time you brushed your teeth? Brush them. You know what I mean? Exactly. So, and then he has a scalpel, and right on this side of his neck is where the infection has grown. It's black, it's veiny, it's gross, it's extended to his hand. Victor slices him. He ends up getting out of the chair. There's a little scuffle for a moment. Victor gets away. Then Leon gets out, goes upstairs. You grab some ammo, your herbs, all you need. Then we meet another chunk, which, if you find the files, you find out that there were two brothers. One likes meat a lot. And that's the one that Leon runs into. He's chowing down on somebody. Then you got to beat him to get out of the room. Because if you just try to open the door, it literally just says, now's not the time for that. The time is now, because why would I stay in here to fight him? Big beluga. No, I ain't fighting Chunk the beluga. Go away. But you have to in order to get out of that room. So then, you defeat him, you exit, and then you get back down into the care center. Can we talk about the singing zombies for a moment? There were people posting videos about how, like, one of them, Selena Corey, who has lore, look it up. She was like doing little hand arts to Leon. They were like, oh, she has a crush. It's so funny. But we have more moments of taking out zombies, and then we make our way all the way upstairs to where we couldn't get into before. Leon can open certain cabinets and doors with his hatchet. Them forearms, they be talking to all of us. And so we get into Victor's main office all the way upstairs, and we get into an elevator and we go. Eventually, Grace is now downstairs in the very, very, very deep basement. And now we have to save Emily from the girl. What a time that is. And that's where the final puzzle also comes in, which I need to still do on my end. I've beat the game 3 times and still haven't done the final puzzle, but I was saving it for my Insanity run. I am petrified to play Insanity, if I'm being completely honest with you. Ultimately, then moving forward, Grace gets Emily out. They get out of the care center. I have to go back just a smidge before they get out. Let's talk about when they get out of the basement real quick, because that was one of the best fake outs I've ever seen in my life. And I know you guys know what I'm talking about. They get into the elevator, it goes up, and then the girl gets in. So she has to pull the doors open so they can get out of the elevator. But then the girl gets in and grabs Grace's leg. And then the elevator's about to go down. The wires are snapping. And then she's like, oh, shit. And so then it collapses. And we all thought for a split second, I know we did, because I know I did. I was like, oh my gosh, did she just lose her leg? Meanwhile, it was just the monster's hand. When I tell you my heart stopped for a solid 3 seconds, it did. That was one of the best fake outs ever. Being said, they get out, they go to the main area, like, of how you would enter, whatever. They go off to the left and we see a helicopter. And then there's the helicopter captain, whatever you want to call him. And I know he has a name, but ultimately she runs into him and they have a little discussion. His boss took the helicopter key. For what? I don't know. Victor, care to explain to me why you just took the helicopter key and then he's just standing around la-di-da-di-da? What? Obviously, like, if she gets outside, it was more of a thing where if Grace gets out and that's like her biggest escape, want to try to avoid that. So then he goes, I'll watch Emily go get the key card or the key, whatever. And at first I know we're all standing there like, I don't trust nobody affiliated with this place. Why would I leave homegirl? But Grace agrees. She goes in, and this is where you'll end up finding Marie's doll. once you get through everything. So then we see like all these incubator type things and this huge just globe with like embers and blood. Disgusting. We get the helicopter card. We have a moment of a cutscene with Victor. He leaves, and then that starts deconstructing. She gets out. They get in the helicopter, but a herd of zombies starts coming. So they go up, but of course, some of them are still latched onto the damn helicopter because you can't have peace for a minute. The helicopter crashes, and then Leon, just right before that, was talking to Sherry and going over the files that they found, not only on Grace, but what they have with their virus. But Grace is associated with it somehow. How? They're trying to figure that out. So then he sees the helicopter crash. He grabs a rifle. He's checking to see what's going on. Grace is running towards a building, trying to get in, and Leon has to cover for her. So he's shooting at the zombies while they try to get in this building. And then eventually he jumps down, and we have a another great one-liner where he like slides off the roof, and then he lands on one of the zombies' head, and he's like, "Excuse me." He has the best one-liners, I swear. Just like Chris with his boulder punching. That's what it is. He just always has the iconic lines, and then Chris just punches boulders. He gets down there. Emily's injured from the helicopter crash. She's bleeding. Grace is very scared. She doesn't want to lose Emily. It's reminding her of her mom. She keeps blaming herself for her mother's death when she did nothing wrong at any capacity. And all she wants to do is get this little girl to safety and not let her be alone anymore and it be through all these experiments like she's a child. So Leon comes in and he's like, she's gonna be okay, like we're gonna be okay, I got you. Then he tells Grace to go so he can fight this big bloated looking monster thing. Disgusting. And then, of course, you got to throw in some zombies in there because you can't just deal with one enemy. You got to have multiples with some capacity, right? Okay, buddy. Then we get to, again, Grace, and she has to turn on the electricity for this place. And then we have the girl again, and we got to fight her real quick. She gets back to Emily, and she's gone. And that was so devastating to watch. And then she turns and Leon comes in, and Grace still, like, again, she doesn't understand any of this. She's never been, exposed to any of this like Leon has. And so, Leon's trying to take her out, and Grace is like, no, please, like, it's Emily. And it's like, it's not Emily anymore. And so then Emily, goes down. Grace is just a mess, and then Grace is like, I'm done. Like, I'm not doing any of this. I'm not a part of this. I don't want to be a part of this. Throws the Requiem gun back at Leon. Grace goes, and then we get introduced to a man that looks just like and acts like Wesker, but he died in that volcano. There ain't no way. He was gone in Resident Evil 5. Chris and Sheva ended that man, right? Come to find out, his name is Zeno. He's working alongside Victor Gideon, and he works for and with the Connections, which has helped funded the facility for Victor. He convinces Grace to come with him to release Elpis. What is Elpis? Please hold on that one, because we're going to get there. We're getting there. So, the most nostalgic and just taken aback moment comes. Leon goes into Raccoon City, and he has to detonate this gate so he can get to the police department where it all started for him. He fights a bunch of zombies, gets the detonator together, blows up the gate, gets on a badass motorcycle and drives through. And now we got to shoot these now extremely mutated dog wolf things while also trying to fight Victor Gideon. So then we get to a point where we have a cutscene, and Victor's like, "Oh, I've had enough of you," and he's like, "I know the feeling," and rips his hatchet that he threw at the Victor's bike out, kicks him off. Then it's like a almost kind of like a Western type of moment in a way, where they drive at each other. He shoots him, and then he goes off. Bike explodes, and we're like, okay, we all kind of have a feeling he ain't dead, but should be. Then we get another iconic one-liner, and this one sent me. I was cackling, and he's like, "Should have worn a helmet." Bike runs out of gas, and we go down the same staircase that then leads us to the now destructed, but still in a lot of senses put together Raccoon City Police Department. And I personally got very emotional seeing that. Again, because not only do I just have such a love for these games, but like that's again Leon's origin. That's where it all starts for him, his story. And to see that now in Requiem and for him as a character, and then we see these flashbacks like it was yesterday for him, and how he just wishes so deeply he could have saved more people, and been that hero for everybody. He couldn't, and it eats at him still. And so we go into the police station. We see the typewriter. We see the banner that says "Welcome Leon" for the party he never got to have. He goes into the old office, and we see Marvin's plaque, and he's like, "Hi, Officer Brenna. Leon Kennedy reporting for duty." And I was like, oh my gosh. We go into the STARS office. We get a nice little charm to add to one of our guns. It's just, there's just so much nostalgia in it, and it just really hits the feels for us fans. At least it did for me, for sure. And I think it did for a lot of people. Then we find Grace and Zeno. Little bit before that, we have a flashback to 1990, which was 8 years before September 30th, 1998, when all hell broke loose. We see a little girl named Chloe, who again looks just like Grace, just miniature. And then we see a picture of multiple of them. And we're like, what is happening? Did they clone Grace? Like, what is going on? So again, we have this flashback from all those years ago, and it's Zeno showing Grace all these documents and videos and such for her to understand why she's so special and important with Elpis. And so again, we meet Chloe. She was asleep. She wakes up. None of the other kids are in bed. She goes, "It's past our bedtime. Like, what's happening?" And so she leaves the room, goes into another one, and you have like a little tiny group of evil looking little children. It reminded me of, I want to say the movie's called Children of the Damned. I think it is called Children of the Damned. It gave that vibe very heavily. Yeah, it's called Village of the Damned. It was done in 1995. John Carpenter also directed this. John Carpenter is heavily well known for the Halloween original and his music. So it has Christopher Reeve, Kirstie Alley, as the leads. The cast is huge for this film. And yeah, Village of the Damned. I don't think it is as well known as it should be. It's a very wild movie. Highly recommend to anybody who hasn't heard of it. But that's the vibe it gave me. And I was just like, listen, quote unquote, possessed children and whatever experiments they were doing on them, yeah, it turned on them really fast. They started taking out the doctors, and Chloe had to run back to the bedroom for a moment to hide under the bed because they were coming after her. Little moments of where you have to hide from them but try to get away from them, and so like she ends up getting a key from the office, and if you remember this office very clearly, at the orphanage, that was where we see Sherry in 1998 with the chief of police. He's gross, so we won't talk about him. And she gets the key, then she has to hide. There's a lot of people that say that there's like when you're doing a speed run, there's a way around that. Tried it, didn't work for me. So I said, you know what? I'll just hide for 2 minutes. I'm not playing this game. Okay. So we get downstairs and she's trying to reach a ladder and she's too tiny. So then you have to pull out the caskets. Why are there caskets down there? Don't ask me. They end up basically taking out any of the children that turn for the quote unquote worst with the experiments. That's messed up in itself. Up getting this like poker, just kind of like how Grace did at the beginning as well, to then pull the ladder down and get away. She's in an umbrella facility that's underground. And she's like, she has no idea what's going on. She's like, where am I? What's wrong with these other kids? She's terrified. We find all these files in a lab area, and we get to this one door where she then starts walking down a hall, and there's these babies growing in this like yellowish ambered color, tiny little incubators. She's like, are those babies? And then we get into another room where she sees a projector and she starts scrolling through, and it's just photos of basically what these doctors at Umbrella were doing and how they were quote unquote basically creating Chloe. And then we see a picture at the end who looks like Chloe because they all look the same. And then two doctors come in and unfortunately take Chloe out. They inject her with something, and then we don't know what happens after that. And then Leon ends up coming in, and then we get a nice little Mr. X moment. He's back. And I was just like, you're joking. That dude, unnecessary. Like Zeno, find something else, bro. So yeah, Leon comes in. Grace reaches out for Leon in a sense, and was like, "Mom," and then passes out. Zeno takes Grace, and now we have to run from Mr. X. We get away from him, heading towards the orphanage ourselves, and then we have a whole nice boss fight with Mr. X. We take out Mr. X and we get to the orphanage. The orphanage is basically destroyed. There's not a lot to check out and see, which I wish we would have been able to do a little bit more of like scouting through the police department and the orphanage. I think that would have been really great. But granted, we also have to be very mindful of the fact that a bomb blew up Raccoon City, so there's going to be a lot of destruction. Into Raccoon City a little more and find a lovely big ass spider. I don't mess with spiders. I don't like them at all. Don't like them. Don't want them. Don't need them. This big ass spider. Where'd you come from, my dude? Where? Tell me Umbrella made you and you just been crawling around the city, laying a bunch of babies everywhere? Not cool, bro. Have a boss fight with that. Then we have the Plant 43. Ugh, that's a whole other. Get it together, Raccoon City. What is going on in your town? So eventually we then get to the ARC facility. Leon and Grace are running around each. So we get in there. Leon's virus has progressed heavily now to stage 3. So he passes out for a little bit. And I also just want to make clear, I know there might be like some small details that I might be missing, but like I simply just want to cover like the heaviness of certain areas and get across like what I enjoyed about the game personally and like give the details that I feel are necessary. If I missed anything, please feel free to comment. And I can definitely cover it either in another episode a little bit or like on my TikTok. He passes out for a hot minute. Grace stays with him. He gets up. And then he has become now very weak. He is fighting very, very heavily with this virus now. And we also, again, have to be mindful that Leon, I mean, he's not old, but he's older. And, you know, his body's not going to react like a 21-year-old now. He's 49. So Grace goes deeper into the facility so she can get the crane up and get certain keys. Leon also eventually does the same. As the crane is moved, he climbs up a ladder, does the same thing. So that way they can get to Elpis and destroy it, or so they think they need to. So that's where we then get to a point where Grace, well, also, can we also talk about how the lickers came back? Oh my gosh, everywhere. And then you have these like reanimated looking zombies that kind of look like the regenerators from 4, which I was like, go away. Grace gets to a point where she is in this humongous room with a big screen. And then this is where we really find out Grace's origin. And to backtrack a smidge for Leon, and he also has a fight with somebody called the Commander, which a lot of people are saying is Hunk. If you don't know Hunk, you definitely want to check back into Resident Evil 2. I want to say also Operation Raccoon City. He was pretty primary in. I've mainly played the mainline games. There's only a few of the like side games that I've played, only because like a lot of them were only available for certain systems, and it's really hard to get a lot of those now, like Operation Raccoon City and Revelations and Outbreak Files. Those are a little harder to get, and I like to have physical copies, especially of the Resident Evil games. That's just kind of my groove. I love having the physical copies. But a lot of people are saying that the Commander is Hunk and that it's been like for sure stated that it's Hunk. I personally am still trying to figure that out. But a lot of people were very disappointed in that fight. And I'm sitting here like, why? It was a really good fight. And also, if you leave the room and come back, his body's gone. So I don't think he's dead. That, you know what I mean? So, because now they've gotten to a point with this game particularly where like, you know, you look back at like the OG Resident Evil 4 and the bodies would just dissipate. Like the bodies aren't dissipating in these. So like for the body to be gone, like I don't think he's dead. Well, because another theory that was also going around is that like he faked his death so he could get out of like the connections. I guess we'll find out here very soon with that. Maybe the director of Requiem will tell us, or we'll find out in the DLCs. Grace sees these videos then of what like the files of what Elpis is and whatnot, but then she sees videos because she still had the tape that Alyssa had hid behind the picture at Renwood in the little pouch, as well as her journal diary. She watches these interviews of Alyssa talking to Spencer, the head of Umbrella. He agreed to have an interview with Alyssa Ashcroft. And so we watch a few of those. And then the last one she watches, that was labeled Grace. She turns it on. They're chit-chatting. The video camera for the interview was still recording. And a doctor brings Grace in. And Spencer just has, right off the bat, so much love for baby Grace. And Alyssa's like, oh, like, is that another one of your experiments? And he says, no, she's a normal girl. She was an orphan and I took her in and I'm taking care of her until my last breath, basically. Talks about how Grace is his hope. And then asks Alyssa to hold Grace. And Alyssa says yes. And as we find out, Spencer has given uh, custody of Grace to Alyssa. And it's not far off to think that they are truly mother and daughter, but obviously they weren't. And this is where she finds out everything. And as we know in the cutscene towards the beginning of the game, Alyssa also says that she is her hope. And I think that is not only just such a beautiful thing, but then you also not only like Spencer very, very clearly states that he regrets a lot of things that happened with Umbrella and regrets things that he did. And he wants to be better and do better for her, for Grace. And so then eventually we see on a camera that Leon is, well, also throughout his little gameplay before this, we see that he is now very much struggling. The virus is very much starting to take over his body. And so he has moments of like slowness and like it turns into like this bluish, dark bluish like screen, and he's fighting heavily, he's coughing, he's moving slower, it's just little fits. And then as he gets back towards where Elpis is and Zeno is, waiting for them to come back with the code to release Elpis, he coughs up a crap ton of blood and collapses. And then Grace comes out and she shakes him up, shakes him awake, and he's like, oh, I was just resting my eyes. And so they walk back in together and she says she has the code. And he's like, okay, like fulfill your destiny. And then we have a choice. Do we destroy Elpis or do we release Elpis? And my first playthrough, if I could have screamed, oh baby, I would have. I dumbly picked destruction. You have to pay attention to what Spencer and Alyssa have been saying this whole time, which is Elpis is hope. Grace is hope. Well, Grace is the hope. Elpis was what Spencer created for Grace ultimately. She's not infected, but like it was created to make amends in general, but also he did it for Grace. First of all, do not pick destruction. I beg of you. It's life altering. Promise. The game in general is, but that decision, that'll just ruin you. It ruined me. Jaw dropped like this. No. 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 That can't. It was 3:00 in the morning when I first beat it, so I couldn't scream. Yeah. Saying the least. Releasing Elpis, you then find out what Elpis really is, which is the antiviral. It cures the disease, and makes you again. Takes that virus or viruses away. So releasing Elpis, Zeno takes it thinking it's going to progress him and mutate him, and it cures him. And that's where Grace is like, yo, dummy, it's an antiviral. Then we get Victor back. He's missing an arm. And then Zeno and him go at it. They're fighting. They're arguing like children. And, Leon's like literally at his end. Like he needs cured now. And so, Zeno gets cured. And we have this badass line moment from Victor, honestly, where, he calls Zeno an imitation, which means he is a clone copy of Wesker. And damn, did that smack Zeno right in the face. Right in the face. That hit him in his chest, in his gut. And he was just like, the connections, me, like we've put in all this money to support you and this is what I get in return. And Victor was like, well, damn, Spencer played us all. He's a genius. And now he wants to destroy Elpis. So he hurts Grace with his little nasty little tentacle like arm. Grace cures Leon, and we get our true Leon back. And then we have a pretty dope boss fight between him and Victor, and he ends up mutating into Nemesis, baby. And again, then we get the badassery moment of this time you ain't getting back up, baby. Pew, pew, done, dead. And it was just, there's so many epic moments, but that last half, man, it really hit. So then, he finds Grace. She's hurt, but okay. And they're trying to find a way out, and there seems to be no way out. And that's where Leon's like, I'm not leaving you. I will stay right here with you. And that's when we think, oh my gosh, are they both going to die? Chris Redfield comes in. Well, he doesn't show up, but his team shows up to save the day. And so he says, I have a message from Captain Redfield. And you're like, Chris, yes. And then we get to where we have the iconic moment of Leon walking away. The hips don't lie, baby. The hips do not lie. Okay. And so then, Elpis is free. Sherry will get cured. He goes over to check on Grace, and she says that she wished that she could have saved Emily. And this was one of the most highly controversial things I think of this entire game, where he's like, I didn't hit any of her vitals. And everybody's like, hello? What? And then you just watch like what happened in that moment. Like you play it back, and it's like, dude, do you know where you shot her at? Like literally everywhere. Ultimately, they find her body and they cure her. And then, we have a cut scene. They're on a phone call. She's back at the agency at the FBI. And she and Leon are friends. And now she is also Emily's caretaker. And I think that is such a beautiful thing. That she's just stepping basically into mom mode and is Emily's mom now. And we also see pictures on her desk of her and Alyssa and her and Emily. And she's talking about how she's teaching her to read, and because now she can see again. And it's just such a beautiful, heartwarming ending. And, for Grace's character, like, we met her and she was very shy and scared and stuttered and everything. And then you get to the end of the game, and she really proved herself, and she grew a lot, and put her foot down and said, like, I'm going to do something. I'm going to end this with and for Leon and everybody else, so this can be stopped. And I admire this character so much, because I think she is so relatable to, again, the general public. She's not Leon. She's not Chris. She's not Jill. She's not Claire. She's not Luis. She's not Carlos. She's not any of these people that have been around this since their day one, ultimately. All of them have bared witness to this immediately or have been involved in it for a long time, especially within Requiem. And so to see this shy, scared girl become not that she wasn't a woman because she's in her early 20s, but like a grown, tough woman, was incredible by the end of the game. And that's why I just heavily, give my kudos to Angela Santalbano and Nick Apostolidis, because they just really carried these characters so beautifully. And the game, I just feel like, was just so well done, in my opinion. There's obviously always going to be like a few little things, like, again, like, oh, I didn't hit any of her vitals, but it's just like, again, it's a video game. It's not fully realistic. So I think that's like really important to also understand and know. Overall, I just really love this game. And I think it's something that everybody should play and watch, if not from streamers and all the things. A game that I will just keep raving on about because it deserves it. One more cutscene after, though, that we get, which is really interesting. Chris's team is still searching the area, and they go to grab something. What did they grab? Because then we've also, had moments of BSAA agents that, were zombies and were able to still use guns and everything. Like, what? So there's a lot of questions happening, and it's like they're already starting to gear up for 10 on top of the remakes that they're doing. So Code Veronica, Resident Evil 1, all these other games. Capcom's like ready to roll, and I think we as a fan base are also ready for all of it. So Capcom, thank you for another amazing game. Truly love Requiem so much. I talk about it nonstop, online with friends, and everybody's like, okay, girl, you need to calm down. And I'm like, no, I love Leon and I love Resident Evil. Fight me. So, but I'm just genuinely so pleased with this game. I love it. It's so good, so well done. The story hits everything, and I think it closes a lot of doors to past games that we had questions about. And I think that's really important to like tie up the loose ends in a sense, if that's what you want to say. I mean, that's what I would normally say. But everybody, I hope you guys take care of yourselves. Thank you so much for tuning in. And sitting here again with me and jibber jabbering about Resident Evil Requiem. Soon, I will be talking more about Never Return, and hopefully getting some cast and crew on the podcast to chat more about it. But until then, enjoy Resident Evil Requiem, play those DLCs, take care of yourself, and I will talk to you soon. Mwah. 7 minutes. 7 minutes is all the time I have to spare to play with you.